My name is Ethan Collins. I used to live in a small town in Washington State, USA. I say used to, because even though I still live there, my life no longer feels alive. People often say that time heals everything. But I don't believe that anymore. Some pain doesn't heal. It only becomes quiet. Before everything changed, my life was simple. I worked as an architect. Every morning, I went to the office. Every evening, I came back to an empty apartment. My life was organized, clean, silent. I never felt unhappy, but I never felt full either. Love felt like something that belonged to movies, not real life. I believed relationships were mostly habits and compromises. Then one rainy day, everything changed. It was raining very hard that evening. I was walking back from work when I stepped into a small old bookstore to escape the rain. The place smelled like old paper and wood. The lights were warm and soft. Behind the counter stood a woman. She was wearing a blue sweater. Her hair was loosely tied back. She looked up and smiled gently. Her name was Elaina Gray, she said softly. You can stay here until the rain stops. There was no hurry in her voice, just calm. At that moment, I didn't know I was not only escaping the rain, but also my loneliness. I picked up a book and pretended to read. She looked at me and asked, "Do you read books, or do you just hold them?" I smiled for the first time that day. She said, "Books don't just tell stories, they hold time." We didn't talk much that day, but somehow, my heart listened more than my ears. The next day, I went back. And the day after that, sometimes for books, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for no reason at all. Elaina didn't talk much, but when she spoke, her words stayed with me. One day she said, "You're quiet," I replied, "and you don't ask too many questions." She smiled. That was the day I fell in love with her. Slowly, very slowly. Our love didn't arrive loudly. It didn't rush. It grew quietly, like breathing. We walked by the ocean together. We sat in silence. We shared thoughts without finishing sentences. She once said, "Relationships that are too loud get tired quickly." I knew then that she understood love. 6 months later, we decided to live together. It was a small apartment, one window, an old couch. At night, she rested her head on my chest and listened to my heartbeat. She said, "When you're here, I don't feel afraid." I held her tightly, believing that love could protect us from everything. One evening, she became tired while climbing the stairs. Her breathing became heavy. I felt fear for the first time. At the hospital, the doctor stayed silent for a long time. Then he said the words I will never forget. Serious heart disease. Treatment was difficult. Time was uncertain. That night, Elaina held my hand and said, "Don't be scared. We are together." But I knew fear had already entered our lives. Hospital days were cold. Machines made soft sounds all night. Lights were always blue. I sat beside her bed every night, holding her fingers. She grew weaker, but her eyes were still full of love. One night she said, "If I don't survive..." I stopped her. She smiled and said, "Listen to me." She said, "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of leaving you alone." Tears fell from my eyes. She wiped them away and said, "Remember me smiling, not like this?" The doctors later told us the truth. There was not much time. I left my job. I stayed with her every moment. I told her stories about the future. Trips we would never take. Mornings that would never come. She listened quietly. On the last night, she was very calm. She said, "I feel sleepy." I held her hand. She whispered, "Ethan, if I don't wake up tomorrow..." My body started shaking. She smiled softly and said, "Know that I loved you completely." Her breathing became slow. Her lips moved one last time. "I love you." Then everything became silent. The sun rose the next morning. But my world did not. The room felt empty. My hands were empty. My heart was empty. That was 7 years ago. I still live in the same apartment. Her books are still on the shelf. Her pillow still smells like her. I never loved anyone else again. Because some people come into your life only once, and when they leave, they take your heart with them. If you ever find real love, hold it tightly, because after love is gone, life becomes only a habit. She is gone, but she still lives in every breath I take.